Welcome to my favorite day of the week, Tuesday afternoon, when I get to go live with you guys. And I know that everybody's watching what's happening with the BRICS really closely. So that's what we're going to talk about today because the summit is coming up. And I did a deeper dive and read the white paper on the unit. So that is presumably, because it has not been announced yet, but presumably that's going to be the BRICS currency, and we're going to be talking about that, and there are some things that I definitely want you to see. But there's a lot that's going on with the BRICS, and number one, we've got 30 countries that confirm their participation in the BRICS summit, which comes about this month, the 22nd to the 24th. So we're going to be watching that closely to see exactly what they announce this time. But we're going to get into that a little bit more. So the Russian deputy outlined that applicants, so they've got so many countries that want to apply to become part of the BRICS, that they must defy sanctions against the BRICS members and maintain sovereign policies, which could be a bit challenging for some of the countries like, say India, that has a relationship that they don't want to ruin with the US, as well as their relationship with the BRICS. So some of these countries are going to have to walk a very fine line. But the preference going into this meeting is to consolidate those members that were just added in January. And even though Saudi Arabia is on that list, they haven't fully confirmed yet, but this is about a consolidation of that power because the BRICS now compose 46% of the global population, which is a pretty big deal, and 44% of global oil production, as well as 36% of GDP, global gross domestic product, which is all of the money that flows through all of their countries of the BRICS members. So they have a whole lot more power because over in the West, that is declining as the BRICS are rising. So we're definitely seeing a transition in power from the West, from the advanced economies that have so abused the system, to the East, to growing populations. And of course, we all know that the BRICS countries are adding to their gold positions as much and as quickly as they can. And again, we're going to talk about the unit here in just a minute. But the BRICS countries may present, so this is from a Russian news agency, and of course the meeting's going to be held in Russia. The key principles in designing the new financial system are decentralized of international interaction and the use of digital technologies. So this is the theme that we're hearing, and while a lot of people will embrace that, and I absolutely agree. We need decentralized money. This is decentralized money, isn't it? Yep, this is also decentralized money. So there are ways to do it, and let's see, what are they going to lay out? Because the question is, and what we're going to be looking for as we go into the end of October at this summit, is are they ready to really start fully executing the plan? Because they've been building the plumbing underneath the new system. So when they're ready to turn that plumbing on, that's what I'm watching for. How long will it be before the plumbing in the current system, the SWIFT system, the US-centric system, the dollar-centric system, does one get turned on and the other get turned off? They've been making moves toward that at any rate. And of course, many are saying that the new BRICS currency could be in place as early as 2025. I don't know whether or not they're ready for that. It seems like it needs some more work, but I don't know. I mean, there's only so much that I'm going to be able to see. We're going to find out, because if everything is in place for the launch, the biggest threat is their ability to turn the faucet on in the new financial system and turn the old SWIFT system off when they are such a huge part of the GDP. And of course, Russia is already doing 75% of their global transactions, not in US dollars. So clearly, it can be done. The question is, are they ready for the launch? And we'll know that very, very soon. But I want to talk a little bit more about what they're laying out, and I want to focus on the unit. So we're preparing a presentation of some solutions for the Autumn BRICS Summit in the retail, so you and I are retail, and the B2B, so business to business, so wholesale. So in all segments, they are preparing and presenting solutions. Digital finance, new economic reality. Let's say that we have some of the old mixed in with some of the new. So it's not like the only answer is to go to a fully gold-backed convertible currency, fully backed. That's the piece that I don't think we're going to see. But what does this look like, and how can we be sure? We just saw what happened in Zimbabwe, where they made the promise and the commitment to not create more money than gold they held in storage, as well as other currencies, and that didn't last very long, did it? But let's just kind of take a look at this, because these solutions in the retail and B2B segments are the unit, which I'm going to come back to in a second. But here's the second. The unit project assumes that the value of the common unit of account is pegged, these are their words, not mine, pegged by 40% to the value of gold. Well, what is determining the current value of gold? The spot markets are, right? In the spot markets, you can create as much gold and silver that does not nor ever will exist as you want to. So they're saying that it is pegged by 40% to the value of gold and by the remaining 60% to a basket of national currencies of the BRICS countries. This approach can make it convenient and universal instrument. But I have to say that the universal instrument the other basket of currencies are simply from the BRICS nations. So that's not so universal, right? The IMF's SDR can include every single currency on the planet. So it just seems more logical to me that and everybody's got some already, that's more likely to be the next world reserve currency, not the unit. And I do want to point out, because this is a very, 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 very big deal, and you know it's something that I talk about all the time, that all they're doing is pegging it, right? So what's pegging it? Well, quite honestly, pegging is attaching a currency to, it can be another currency, like those currencies that are pegged to the US dollar, or it can be a commodity. And there is a big difference, which I'm going to go over in just a minute, between pegging and backing. And so you have to also consider what they really mean when they say that, because we're coming up to a period of time where we're seeing a lot of asset-backed digital securities. Okay, well, they're intangible. The digital securities are intangible. The unit is intangible, and it's pegged, right? So when any asset is pegged, number one, you need to understand this. Pegging currencies together has happened forever, but no peg has ever lasted. Just like the recent peg to gold, and this was supposed to be backed, right? In Zimbabwe, when it was inconvenient for the government, right? And it didn't work anymore, boom, that peg was broken. So be very conscious of the words that they are using, and make sure that you go in and look for yourself as to what they are really telling you. The unit that they're coming out with is not gold backed. It is not convertible into the underlying gold. It is merely pegged to the current market price of the gold. And the currencies that make up the balance of it are just the BRICS currencies. So it's not so universal, and it's not as stable or the answer that they want you to believe. And by the way, the IMF has spoken about putting a component of gold in the SDR. But again, if it's pegged, quite honestly, it means nothing, because then it's just tied to the Wall Street markets that they control so easily. It's just, it's not real. And the other areas that they're looking at for the solutions have to do with international settlements in BRICS digital currencies, the bridge. So that is what the bridge is supposed to do, is connect all the currencies, central bank to central bank to central bank to central bank, inside of the BRICS nations. So it's the ability to not have to buy oil or lumber, steel or whatever with US dollars. Now you're doing it with BRICS currencies, but are they, I mean, seriously, are they any better than dollars? No, not really. They're all the same at this point. It's why the whole global system has to reset. So the bridge that they're talking about is one that was actually started by the Bank of International Settlements, and it is to bridge the differences from one central bank to another central bank within their network of central banks. So you get easier cross-border translations, though having the currencies as part of the unit. Right? Now you've got a universal bridge currency, but you've also got your local currencies easy to convert, which is why I keep saying I think it's going to be the SDR, but we'll see. They need a payment system that's in place to make those cross-border payments, like the SWIFT system does right now, that they want to get away from, and should, because the US used it as a weapon, and a settlement depository. So you have this transaction here, this transaction here. Who's going to settle those transactions? That is a consolidation of power, and it remains to be seen, because we've been moving in this direction on a global basis anyway, to fewer and fewer entities having to deal with these settlement issues. It's a concentration of power, and it could make for also some bottlenecks depending on what's going on in the market. They also want an insurance system. Now, if the gold in the unit were actually convertible, so you could take that gold out, there's your insurance system. But instead, their preference, because it's easier and there's more unlimited possibilities, are to do that in a digital form. And as we are about to see all around the world, and particularly in the US, and what's been happening with private equity and private debt, and how they're going in and taking over the insurance. You want to know the best insurance? You hold it and you own it outright, and it runs no counterparty risk. Any counterparty, like insurance contracts, they're all counterparty risk, and they're based upon the claims paying ability of the entity. Make no mistake about that. And then finally, they feel that they need a BRICS rating alliance. So this would determine the level of interest on the debt, etc. So it looks to me like, in many ways, what they're really doing in here in the plumbing is to duplicate what the US-centric and the dollar-centric SWIFT system has done. And I guess my question is this going to be a better system, or the same kind of system, or a worse system? I mean, I don't know, but it is pegged. It is not backed. And that is huge. So again, it is pegged, which means it's price action, and 40% of the unit will move with the spot market. But it will not likely, until we do the reset, right? It will not reflect the true fundamental value of an ounce of gold. It will in the future, and that's what they're probably getting ready for. But pegging, it's just, I'm sorry guys, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. But it is a challenge to the U.S. And what will the U.S. do to respond? I don't know. We're about to find that out as well. But there are many that think that there is a new era of gold, and this is in the Bretton Woods. And the Bretton Woods agreement that was first created in the 40s that positioned the U.S. dollar as the world reserve currency based on all other global currencies pegging their value to the US dollar, that vowed to maintain the dollar's value at 35 to 1 ounce of gold. Those pegs have long been breaking. There are definitely still countries that are pegged to the US dollar, but when they created the euro, that is when roughly a number of countries then pegged to the euro and the rest pegged to the US dollar. A lot of those pegs are breaking. China was pegged to the US dollar actually for quite some time, and you can see when that peg was broken, and then it free floats against it. So when you hear a strong dollar or a weak dollar, what they're referring to is against another currency. Oh, the dollar is stronger or weaker against the euro or against the yuan or whatever it is. But the current situation can be understood through the lens of 3 distinct Bretton Woods eras. Bretton Woods I, established after World War II, saw the US dollar become the global reserve currency. Bretton Woods II followed the Nixon shock of 1971 when he fully removed the dollar backing and of gold. They took our ability, the public's ability, to convert dollars into gold back in 33, but in 1971, Nixon reneged on Bretton Woods once and then disallowed foreign governments from converting dollars into gold, right? So pegs never last, and neither do backings when they create restrictions that governments don't like if there's a way out. But now we are entering Bretton Woods III, characterized by a shift toward commodities and gold-backed currencies. So it becomes more and more important that you understand the difference between gold backing and pegs. So even if a country says, like Zimbabwe did, no, this is gold backed, you couldn't convert it. It was only in digital form, and boom, they did an overnight reset just recently. So not backed, no restrictions. But again, I want to reiterate this because it is so important. We are now entering Bretton Woods III, characterized by a shift toward commodities and gold-backed currencies. And you got to ask yourself, you've got to really kind of think about this. I'm saying we, the people, need to take our power back. And we do that by creating a very peaceful and quiet revolution simply by converting our government debt-based garbage currencies into sound money. Because if enough of us do that, we can demand, and got a shot at anyway, a seat at the table in the new monetary system. And if I'm sitting at that table representing all of us, or if somebody else is and I can support them, it is going to require the convertibility. If it's 40%, okay, 40% convertible into the gold. If I don't like what you're doing, I'm pulling it out of there to create restrictions around how much debt and how much garbage you can grow. So it has to be convertible. If it's not convertible, it does, as we've just seen in Zimbabwe, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't change anything, and it doesn't shift the power into the public's hands, which means that we can expect a whole lot more abuse. So I wanted to just lay this out to you because essentially, if you think about it like this, the oasis represents a gold-backed currency that is real and is used in every single sector of the global economy. And if you don't like what the government's doing or the central bankers are doing, you take in this trash and you convert it into sound money. That creates those restrictions, and that's what gives the public the power. And that's what we need, because this is a club and you and I aren't in them, and I think we need to create our own new club and be in it. Gold pegging is really a mirage. So you can think about this as an oasis in the middle of the desert, and you're dying of thirst and you're trying to get to this cool drink of water. The pegging or the gold backing without convertibility, because those are just words, take your pick, is a mirage that represents gold pegged currency and the illusion of stability tied to gold. But without that direct convertibility, that can actually lead to a lot more uncertainty when those market conditions change, like we just saw in Zimbabwe. It means nothing. So let us know your thoughts in the comments. Let's have this conversation. We all need to have this conversation, because let me show you a really simple summary of the differences between the truth, so that oasis, and the mirage. And remember too, let me see, where do I have that? You know, they know how to make these transitions, and of course I should have pre-planned this and I didn't, but here we go. All right, this, my friends, this is a $20 gold coin, 1 ounce of gold. This is a $20 gold certificate. You can see that little round gold mark right there. So this is real. This is a mirage. This is an oasis. This is a mirage. But it got you used to this, which then they turned into that. Looks pretty similar, doesn't it? Right? So on a mirage, you're desperate. You're going through the desert and you see something that looks like a cool drink of water, but it's not. You get there and it's a mirage. Unless you can convert it, it is not truly gold backed. So let's go back to this summary of differences. In a truly gold backed currency, it is directly convertible into gold. If it doesn't do that, it's not really backed. They're using the word, but it's not real. And the convertibility, yep, directly into gold. It's limited. It's limited by the amount of gold that exists in the whole world, and whatever is in the reserves. It's a finite amount, and it's more stable, not just due to the direct backing, but because it has the broadest base of functionality, since it is used in every single sector of the global economy. Gold pegging, or a currency that says that it's backed but is non-convertible, take your pick. It is just linked to the price of gold. And we know it's easy to create as much gold and silver, for that matter, that does not nor ever will exist. You can't convert it. It is just fixed to the price, the manipulated price of gold. It is more flexible in currency issuance. Just like we saw in Zimbabwe. No, we vow, we promise, we swear we will not print more gold and currencies than we have backing it, until they did a 44% overnight revaluation. Boom! Can't do that if the currency was actually backed. And stability depends on the market price of gold, which, as we know, is easily manipulated. And cheaply manipulated. I mean, what's $150 to control 500 ounces to the price of gold? That's huge leverage. Both China and the US are using inflation as a strategy to prevent their economies from shrinking under deflationary pressures. If they actually, and I'm going to fight for this, but if they actually backed a currency with gold that was convertible by the public, well, we're going to have a much more real economy, and you're going to hold your purchasing power much better, so that all of the labor that you put out there, whenever you go to use that money, it holds its purchasing power over time. Not just this second, you better spend it really fast. But it is quite clear that in order to fight deflation, government central banks especially use inflation. There's really, there's only one way, so it's not a million ways. And when you have the ability to convert and take that gold out of the system, it ties their hands and it forces fiscal responsibility. What a concept. I think we need to have fiscal responsibility in this world. And the way that starts at home is by scanning that QR code, clicking that link, calling us and getting your sound money strategy in place. But you need more than gold and silver. That's your foundation. You need food, water, energy, security, barterability, wealth preservation, community, and shelter. And there's nothing more important than community right now. Because if we stay separate from each other, if we don't talk, well, they'll just keep slipping things on us, removing rights that we have, and before you know it, you're inside of another monetary system that even takes away more of your freedoms, your liberties, and rights. This is a battle, and this is the right side of the battle. Because once you hold it, it's fully decentralized. Oh yeah, that's what we're going to do because we're going to have a bunch of nodes. No. This is universal money. So is this. And it's universal money not because somebody decrees it so. It's universal money because it is used in every single sector of the global economy. Boom. And it runs no counterparty risk. Everything else, including the unit, including what the BRICS are putting together, that's a lick and a promise. That's just shifting from the frying pan, frankly, into the fire. That's looking for that wonderful oasis and coming up with sand. Get your oasis in place. That means real gold, real silver, and then you can deal with anything, and then we actually have a shot at having a seat at the table. And what that means to me is having a say in the next system. Why in the world would you let those that got us into this position remain in power? Take your power back. Yep, you're one person. And alone, you're right, not a darn thing you can do. But together in a global community, we have real power. You have real power. I'm going to tell you something, this is the conclusion that I've been coming to for a while, because many of you know that I've been on this path and on this journey on some level my entire life, right? And I used to think that one person, was supposed to do something that had a positive impact on a lot of people. And I know when I do these shows and I'm live that I get to really talk to people, and and the appreciation is huge. And sometimes it's kind of shocking. And that's great, right? But that's an ego thing, right? In reality, what I have come to understand, thanks to what happened to me in Australia and in May at the XRP and the other shows that I've been doing, is that I have realized that no, it's not just my job to have a positive impact on a lot of people, But if I can get the global community and the local communities in all different places coming together, oh my God, that's all of us. All of our jobs, not just one person, not just me. I mean, I have a little impact, that's it. We need to have a big impact. And that takes all of us, every single one. So look in the mirror and say to yourself, if not me, who? And if not now, when? And let's come together in a global community, because we can overpower those that are currently in power. One-on-one, nope, we're weak. They are way stronger than we are. But in a global community, when 8.4 billion people come together, or even a fraction of that, there's your power. Let's make the next system coming in more fair to our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren. If we don't do it, who's going to do it? It's going to be too late. And they're going to have 100 years or so of even worse garbage than we've had over this past 100 years. So, having said that, now let us take questions. Emmanuel B. Hello, Lynette. If you will have to start now from zero, what assets will you buy, how much, and split percentage? I'm from Romania but live in the UK, so I can allocate £1,500 a month for this. I need your wisdom. That's a great question, Emmanuel, and I'm going to say you got to step back and you look at the mantra: food, water, energy, security, barterability, which for me is silver, wealth preservation, which is gold for me, community, which is what we're doing here, and shelter. And you want to look at that and you want to say, where do I feel the most vulnerable? If you don't own any sound money, I'm going to say you need to get some sound money foundation. So you do that, you do a little bit, you get that in place and you step back and you go, okay, I feel okay here. Where do I feel the most vulnerable? And maybe that's security. And so you put on those security doors, you put on the shutters, you get a dog, you plant spiny things, you do something to make you feel like you have some level of security and people won't be able to break in and hurt you. I don't care so much about the taking of the stuff, because you can replace stuff, but you can't replace a life. So you want to make sure. So that's how you do it. And if what you have is $1,500 a month and you're going to start a foundation of sound money, maybe you allocate, I don't know, 75% of that a month to sound money, and then 25% to food, water, energy. But your time needs to be spent developing community, because we do not have the time that we once had. In fact, it was kind of interesting, and I'm going to use these guys here as an example, right? And something that's been very frustrating for me is that I have this whole mantra, and it's what I've been working on since 2008, because I knew the system died then. And it doesn't matter who it is, even honestly on my team, and I'm not just referring to these guys, I'm referring to everybody. I seem to be the one that feels the most sense of urgency about getting this stuff done and making sure that you are in a position to not just weather this storm. That's the first part. You have to create that community, that security around all those aspects, but also the ability to thrive through it. We have to do all of it, as hard as it is, as hard as everybody is working. As much as I bring in more talent and more talent and more talent that actually cares about you guys and really wants to make a difference, that's the big theme that we have at Zang Enterprises. I'm so proud of that. But even with all of their love and caring and how good they feel about the work that they're doing, I'll add more people. It is critically important that you get that executed as quickly as you can. So local community, go to your local farmers markets. I know Morgan is putting together a program. We're not ready to do that piece yet, but it doesn't mean that you should wait for us. You can still call us, you can talk, you can ask the questions, and all the other people that we have in our community and on our team on all of those different mantra pieces, we'll get back to you, and we still want to help you get everything in place. But community, you got to do it locally and globally. And so, Emmanuel, by you converting this garbage into sound money, you're helping the global community. You're using your power. It's the power of the purse, right? We are all of us in consumer-driven economies. This is what, you don't even consume this. You just convert from garbage money into sound money. The percentage is challenging because you have to look at your circumstance. And we can help you do that, even though we're not in a position at this time. We're working on it. For you to actually purchase gold through us. I mean, we can set that, we can direct you. I mean, you guys know that I just love Mario and Echo. He's fabulous. And I'm also going to be doing an event with Andrew McGuire, who's brilliant, in Australia in November, on November 20th. So if you're going to be in that vicinity, or can be, you need to come and join us. So there are avenues, but we will help you as much as we can, because we are a global company and we want to help everybody all around the world. And I don't know if I really answered that well, but that's what you got to do. You want to create that security in every single mantra area as quickly as you can. Community will help you do that. And to bike is life. Oh, one of these days, I'm going to tell you about the time that I spent 3 months in France biking and camping. I was much younger then, but there's a lot to that I want to talk to you about. But anyway, bike is life is just kind of brought that back for a second. At any rate, what I find interesting, it's a comment, not a question. What I find interesting is that interest rates has become a main street talking point in the local media, just not the Financial Post or Wall Street Journal. Yeah, that's absolutely true. Because that's what inspires debt. Sorry, guys. That's what inspires this. This is a debt-based currency. This is a savings-based currency. Debt-based, savings-based. What do you want? So yeah, interest rates, that's what's supposed to guide the rate and speed of inflation. But we're at the end. Great comment, thank you. Barbara, I bought silver and some gold. What should I do with the rest in the bank? Just divorced, need to buy a house later. Don't know how much later, don't know what your circumstances are, but Barbara, if you call us, we're going to discuss your goals. I'm glad that you bought some silver and gold. That is a good foundation. I don't know what your goals were as you bought that. And it kind of depends on when you're going to buy the house, right? If you're going to buy it within the next 6 months, then you just make sure that you're diversified in the bank. So if this bank says, no, you can't have your money, you have your money in another bank as well. And you're not dependent just on one account. Like we saw with those people that deposited, 10 million people that deposited their money in Synapse that went bankrupt in, what was that, April or May, and they still haven't gotten their money back or access to their money. Maybe they never will. Who knows, right? So you need to definitely be diversified, and I would need to know more information before I could give you an educated opinion. You do have to do whatever you're comfortable with. And there are some short-term ways that you can do that as well. If you're going to thinking about buying a house within 6 months, then you don't want to position into physical gold because the fees are just too high, right? But on the other hand, if you don't know that you're going to do it for 5 years or even maybe a year or 2, well, then you probably need to protect yourself more with that. And also, I would say that whatever gold and silver that you bought and however much cash you're keeping in the account, I don't know if you're appropriately diversified, but you always want to be appropriately diversified so that if all that cash goes away, or if you've got a 401k or whatever, you've got stocks and bonds and ETFs and all that stuff. If that goes away, you've got gold over here that will recoup those losses. So call us and be more specific, and then we can help guide you. But ultimately, you've got to do what you are comfortable with, regardless of what anybody says, right? That's my Uncle Al always told me, follow this first. So,
just real quickly, Jimmy says he loves you.
Thank you so much.
Hello.
I love all of you guys too. It's why I work as hard as I do. I'm so tired of telling you I need a vacation.
Hello,
Sorry.
S. And Chocolate Uzma says they love your necklace. Figured I'd tell you that.
Thank you. I got this when I went to New Orleans. Thank you very much. I like it too. And, John M. asks, why did silver crash? Is that today, John? Because I really haven't had a chance to look at the markets. And when I looked at silver, and I just pulled up the chart like yesterday or Sunday, what I saw was that silver was coming to conclusion in the cup formation, and it was trading at about 32 bucks. But if if the spot silver market has dropped a lot, well, yesterday, the stock market was having some challenges. And since most of the stocks are bought on margin or bought with debt, a really good reason why you could see the silver spot market drop is to come up with money to meet those margin calls. Let me mark this down. I will look a little bit closer because the last time I looked at it, which was very early this morning, it had not been dropping dramatically. So I will look, and I could even tweet about it tomorrow if I see anything that, if I see anything that's major, we'll come on and do something about it.
Yeah, it looks like on our site, our ticker is saying $30.43 is what it's selling at.
Okay, so that's down maybe about $2-ish, somewhere around that. That's fine. Nothing goes straight up, nothing goes straight down. It bounces along the way. It would not surprise me if it weren't based on some margin calls or some profit taking, because the spot market is really just a trade, right? The physical market is not a trade, and it doesn't fall that quickly. But anything like bullion, or bullion-like, is definitely going to be, at this point, following the spot market. But I'll take a look at that, and if there's anything to report, I'll report it tomorrow. And let's see. Michael Lamb asks, if the dollar goes to zero and you own gold and silver mining stocks, how will that turn out? Well, gold and silver mining stocks are stocks, and that means that they're tied to a corporation. And those stocks are denominated in this stuff, right? So when the dollars get reset, so will they. It is not physical gold. It is not, mining stocks are not physical gold and silver. So that's what happens. And actually, didn't we recently post that chart that I did back from 2008 with the mining stocks, the spot market, and the collectible market, and how that behaved during that 2008? Oh, we haven't posted it yet. Okay, I've used that so many times, so but we're going to post that, and you can also call us and request it, and we can shoot it out to you in an email, or if you don't want an email, we'll even send you hard copy. No problem. And Jexter Jackson asks, what if batteries were traded like gold bars that filled and emptied their value throughout our economy?
We're treated like gold bars.
We're treated like gold bars. Well, the difference between batteries, which in this environment are more and more important. I have a huge battery room that we can show you from the bug out location of the energy storage, and energy, obviously, with all of these data centers opening up, is getting more and more and more valuable. So in some ways, batteries are kind of like gold, but they're not bars in that they empty out, to your point, filled and emptied, right? This doesn't empty their value. This holds its value. So that would be the difference. But do I think batteries are important? Heck yeah, I think batteries are important. I don't think they could be used as a form of money, but I think they're very expensive, and I think they will get even more expensive as more and more people realize that they better store some of their energy in order to ensure that you are sustainable in that way. And there are lots of ways to do that. We'll be talking about more about that on our new site that we are working on opening soon. But if you have any questions, you can still ask us and we'll still answer them before that. And Cool Brother G asks, Michael Pinto, I love him, Peter George Gammon, right? Peter, well, I'm not, it's George Gammon. I don't think it's
saying Peter Schiff as well.
Oh, Peter Schiff, okay.
I'm guessing.
Still recommend a 10% gold portfolio. How is one supposed to prepare for retirement if you recommend going all in on gold? This is a great question. And what does diversification mean to you? Okay. For one thing, what they're doing, and that's okay. I mean, everybody's got to do what they're comfortable doing, right? But what they're doing is they're counting on the hyperinflation to push the prices of those assets up, okay? That's not a horrendous strategy, and maybe 10% of your portfolio, because of the true fundamental value of an ounce of gold, could support all of those losses. I personally have a hard time with that. And you got to understand, I think about this stuff differently than anybody else because of where I live my life. And seriously, that means 1987 studying currency and currency life cycles. It seems to be, I'll just say it this way, that's where my expertise lies. And I believe the data because I know how deeply I research things. It is hard for me to hold the lion's share, 90% of my wealth, in intangible assets that I can only convert it back into this. Because when they declare that overnight revaluation, and actually when you look at the inflation and the fact that both the Fed and the PBOC have now vowed to re-inflate everything, which means they're going to print more, they're going to take on more debt, and everything out there will go. And I can't just say to zero because we're probably already there. The only reason why you and I don't know it, and why my good friend Michael Pinto and George Gammon and even Peter Schiff might say that, is because perhaps we're looking at two different things, right? And I've talked to lots of very brilliant people that I learn lots from and have high respect for. But I can't negate the fact that I know there are others out there that have done this longer than I have. But I've actually been studying currency life cycles since 1987. And every life cycle has recognizable patterns. But if you don't know what those patterns are, how are you supposed to know where we are in that trend cycle? Okay? I know what's happening to the dollar. I don't have one little doubt. I also know that what happens is that people are trying to escape the inflation caused by all that central bank printing, that they rush into stocks because that's been drilled into our head. This is the only place to put your money, where Wall Street can rape you and abuse you and take away everything from you. And you're in there, you're volunteering it, and isn't that nice? But haven't they shown their true colors? And haven't you gotten that this is all about nominal confusion, where you get tied up in these numbers? Oh, look at how high Bitcoin is. Look at how high the stock market is, the highest level. We don't want to miss out on that run. Okay. And it works until it doesn't. I don't want to be watching it that closely, to be perfectly honest with you. I consider myself a technician. I know how to read charts. I've been doing it for a very long time. But I am a long-term strategist, not a short-term trader. And I'm not saying that they're short-term traders either. And I don't want to say anything negative about these people that I have a tremendous amount of regard and respect for. But I know my knowledge base. And so I don't care if I miss out on gains. I want to make sure what's more important to me is that my family is well taken care of. So therefore, I'm executing the strategy, and I'm quite comfortable having the lion's share of my wealth. Actually, this is where I have most of my wealth, in this stuff. This is where most of it is held. And you also see stuff behind me, and you see the jewelry that I wear and all of that. I am a tangible gal. That has not always been true, and I expect that it will not always be true in the future. But what I don't know, and nobody else does, and nobody likely will, unless you're the one that gets to push that button, is when this whole thing will implode. And I don't want to have to worry about it. So what's diversification for me? Well, you want to diversify from intangibles, and you want to have some tangibles. And inside of the tangibles, there's gold, and then there's gold. There's silver, and then there's silver. And that's why we built a strategy on layers, because each piece does something different. And that's why we establish your goals first. And then we allow that to dictate how much you need of silver, how much barterable silver, how much barterable gold, how much growth, how much legacy. I mean, it's driven by what you're trying to accomplish. But diversification, if you're gonna keep some of these assets, and that's up to you. I can't tell you not to. I can tell you what I'm doing for me, but I can't tell you what to do for you. You have to decide that on your own. But you definitely want to make sure that you have enough of this to more than cover whatever you're going to hold that is only convertible into that. Jexter Jackson says, what if you put that value into a crypto? Okay, what if you do, right? I'm still struggling to find full functionality in cryptos. I know that they're pushing it. I know that that's what they want, but it's only used in one place, and it's intangible, and it sucks a ton of energy at a time when we're having trouble creating as much energy as we need for the public to keep the lights on, keep all of this stuff going. You've got large corporations that are coming in and eating that up, and in places where they are now having to deal with brownouts and blackouts, and I'm talking about in the US, because so much energy is being sucked. It's, what if you put that value into crypto? You better make sure, because crypto is so far really trading as a risk-on asset class. You watch them develop it. We're going to see who's going to survive. I'm not saying they're going away. No, clearly we are going into a digital iteration. I'm just saying that when we have that digital iteration, I want a component of gold in there, and I want it to be convertible. Because if it's not, like the batteries, it doesn't store the value like gold and silver do. Gold and silver store the value in them because they're physical and used all over the place. So, yeah, if you put the value into a crypto, it's going to reset just like your stocks and bonds are going to reset. I'm going to wait. I see who survives. This, I know, they revalue it. They're not going to do the overnight revaluation against a cryptocurrency. They're going to do the overnight revaluation the way they've done it way over 4,800 times. It's going to be against the primary currency metal because it meets all criteria to be a good currency. Then I will go into crypto when I know who's going to survive and I'm certain that the reset is done. And then there's a component that I can convert to give me the power, to give you the power. Otherwise, the power is held in whoever's controlling the crypto. And dare I say it, does it really look like it's outside of the market to you? Because it doesn't to me. I'm sorry, but it doesn't. ETFs and Wall Street and all this trading, no. So it's used to get you comfortable with it so that it's easier for them to transition you into the CBDC. And JP Haynes asks, is it odd that BRICS is emerging as a dollar alternative as the dollar is at a weak point? What would be the impact to the U.S. economy if BRICS decided to offer a high interest rate for investments? So, there's two questions in here. Both are really interesting, JP. So, is it odd that BRICS is emerging as a dollar alternative as the dollar is at a weak point? Let me point out to you that every single currency that's part of the BRICS countries are also at a weak point. And so what the BRICS are coming to do, because we here in the U.S. have abused the privilege that we were given through Bretton Woods enormously. And we've shown the world that we will do whatever it takes to make you toe the line. So no, all of the currencies are at a weak point. And so when one currency goes away, what has to happen? Another currency has to pop up in its place. So not a surprise, because all of them are weak. We need to reset the entire financial system, and we are resetting it. This is not something that's waiting to happen. This is something that's been happening really since 1913 on many levels, but that has sped up since 2008. So no, it's not odd, but don't think that their currencies are so powerfully strong against the dollar. We're all in the same place. We're all at crap, right? And what would be the impact to the U.S. economy if BRICS decided to offer a high interest rate for investments? And don't they have to pay a high interest rates if there is more risk involved to attract the money there, right? Because everything's been turned into a trading instrument. So the impact to the U.S. is not so much what happens if they offer a high interest rate. What is happening and has been happening and really has been happening since 2000, when the euro came out to replace the dollar as the world reserve currency, is that we are in transition. And all of the debt that's created all of these currencies, that has to be reset to zero so that we can start all over again. So any true discussion of a real gold-backed convertible currency cannot really happen. They can't really back a currency until they've gotten rid of the debt. Because once they do that, it fixes the debt where it is, and the debt's not payable. And I don't care where you are. And if you're paying higher interest to attract it, gold doesn't pay any interest. Why doesn't physical gold pay any interest? 'Cause it's the safest thing that you can do. And this is the time to get to safety. And Thomas Fish asks, hello, Lynette, great show. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Can a person buy a unit? Talking about the unit price pegging. Not yet. Now, we'll see what happens the end of October and whether or not they're announcing it. And I imagine that once they put that in, I mean, it's going to be very interesting. Let me tell you, we could not be living in more interesting times. And I can sit here and be comfortable about it because I have food, water, energy, security, barterability, wealth preservation, community, and shelter. So I can feel okay, and I can even joke a little bit, and I'm not worried when I go to bed at night because, oh, good God, most of my assets are in hard, tangible assets. And there's always a market for it. Maybe it'll be higher, maybe it'll be lower, but at least there is always a market for it. This is critical. So we'll see when it's time and people can buy a unit. But it's all they're talking about is a non-convertible peg. How does that change anything? It's about perception management. It's about making you believe that it's more secure because after all, gold is 40% component. No, it's not gold. It's the price of gold. So that means that it's still tied to the manipulated markets. Who cares? But we'll see what happens. I'll be watching it. And this is a question from one of our strategy specialists, Sari, and she said, and the question is, Wells Fargo said that checking accounts would be going digital soon. A lead asked if that is the case, and I wanted to take cash out of my checking account, but it is digital. Would they give me cash, or am I SOL? Well, there's an interesting thing that's happening, right? If they don't have cash, they're not going to give you cash. And even though really since the 50s, when they first came out with unsecured credit cards, we've been reducing our dependence on cash. Now, everything that I've read about the CBDCs, et cetera, they're not going to take the cash away from us because then we would know that things had changed. Rather, they'll put a chip in here so that when we go to negative rates, then the cash, even if you're holding cash out of the system, when you go to use it or redeposit it, it's going to reflect the negative rates. Having said that, just recently, there has been, we just recorded a piece on that. Did we put that out yet? Or is that going out this week? On the cash? Yeah, I think that went out last week. So maybe you want to put the link in there. Okay, I mean, we do so much of this, sometimes it's hard for us to quite remember, right? But we'll put the link in the below so you can watch it, because happily so, there's a resurgence of cash, which is going to make it much harder for a bank to do completely away with cash. So I'm very glad about that. I mean, we are seeing the younger generation really kind of go, wait a minute, the lie that I've been told my whole life, it's not real. The American dream is dead. The Chinese dream is dead, right? So there's a lot of, I mean, that is a form of revolution and rebellion, is to use more cash, isn't it? But a better one is to convert into physical metals. That's where where you gain more control. But yeah, if you keep it, you're going to be, we're all going to be SOL. Even I'm going to be SOL, because I'm telling you right now, since I'm running a business and we've gotten a lot bigger than we once were, there's a level of cash that I'm holding that I'm not really comfortable with, but got to do it. But it is diversified. And thank goodness, because we did have it where the bank went, nope. And there's nothing you can do. You can yell, you can scream, you can pound your fists against the desk or the door or anything else, and it ain't gonna change. So you better become your own central banker. And part of what we're doing in our layered strategy involves cash. Gotta have some of that as your first line of defense. And Ant Force 62, Thanks to you, Lynette, and thanks to you for being here. I really appreciate it. I started buying gold in thanks to me, you started buying gold in 2020 at $1,600 an ounce. Now it's worth over 2,600. Oh, it's worth a whole lot more than that, darling, a whole lot more. Same with silver. I bought at $18 and now worth $52 an ounce. Thank you for your excellent advice. You are very welcome, and thank you. Thank all of you that are here, watching this live and watching it after the live for being part of this community. Because I know, it isn't, in this case, it's not 1 and 1 equals 2. It's 1 and lots of you equal an exponential amount of difference that we can make in this world. And I hope that at some point I get to meet each one of you in person. And maybe you'll come when we're doing these live with a live studio audience. Soon. We're not ready yet, but we're working on it, and soon. So maybe you'll come and join us, and that would be amazing. And you are very welcome. I've been groomed for this moment in time. I am on a mission in this world to make as positive a difference as I possibly can for as many people as I can. And
you said the gold was worth a lot more than that. Someone in the comments had asked earlier what you think fundamental value was.
It's not something that I check every day because it doesn't really matter at this point, but I can tell you for a fact that it's somewhere north of $40,000 an ounce. Even though it's trading at, 2,600 and 2,700 would not surprise me to see it closer to 4,000 by the end of this year. It's still way below fundamental value. It is a bargain. And truthfully, you should understand what the true fundamental value of every single asset or instrument that you're doing is, because that's one guarantee that I can give you, and I can't give you a lot. But at some point, every instrument, every asset goes to their fundamental value. So it's always from undervaluation to fair valuation to overvaluation to fair valuation to undervaluation in a constant loop if it is a tangible asset. If it is an intangible asset, no. Those 100% of the time, buy, flip, and design, they go to zero. That's the fundamental value of any asset that you hold that can only be converted back into fiat money. It's zero. Even though the markets may tell you it's 60,000 bucks. Yeah, that's short term. But when this thing turns, you better be prepared.
How are you getting that number again? The
fundamental value?
Yeah, for gold and silver.
Okay, and you do this with everything. There's a little bit of nuance in it, but you have to determine what is the single most important function of that asset or that instrument. Arguably, the single most important function of gold is to hold its purchasing power value over time so that no matter when you use it, you are always fairly paid for your labor. Now, as I showed you earlier, right? Back when we had that power, you didn't like what the government or the central bank did. You just walked into the bank with one of these and or vice versa. You walked into the bank with one of these, you walked out with this. That created fiscal responsibility and restrictions. So they transitioned us, right? So we were here. Now, notice this little, other side. It's opposite on the screen that I can see. But they changed this to this, and then they changed this, that convertibility feature, into this. And people didn't realize that it went from a gold standard to a debt standard, because this is a Federal Reserve note. So these and these, both money. Sound money, fiat money. Fiat money is government decreed money. It is created from debt. That's why interest rates matter, because interest rates price debt, right? So you take all of the debt that's been created. You can do it country to country, or you can do it for the whole world. I typically do it for the whole world because this is a global issue. So you take all of the debt that's been grown to create all of this money, and you divide it by the limited amount, all of the gold that exists in the whole world, in ground, above ground, because gold is recoverable, it's indestructible. And that's how you get fundamental value. I mean, it is that simple. With currencies or things that are based on these currencies, right? The less purchasing power value that it has. If you look on the FRED, F-R-E-D, purchasing power chart and look down on the left axis, there's a big fat goose egg. 0, right? Been true for every single currency. So if all you could do is convert it into that currency, that is its true fundamental value. And with gold mining stocks, not like you can take your stock certificate and say, I want my nuggets of gold. Doesn't work. I mean, I like miners, and I think they've been sorely abused, but they're a stock like any other stock. There is no substitution for the physical. No substitution. Okay, and Savannah A. Thanks for all this crucial information, Lynette. Appreciate it. And you know what? I appreciate you, because if you weren't part of this, then I could have all the information in the world and it would mean absolutely nothing. So it's a mutually beneficial relationship. It must always be a win-win. There is really no such thing as a win-lose. It doesn't exist. If one person loses, everybody loses. I want everybody to win, and I want those guys that have abused us to lose. We can make that happen together. And Partha Pamam says, nobody is doing so much hard work for just yet another single reserve currency or unit. We are going back to barter system. Commodities will be repriced after West can't access the trade price info. Thank you. You got it. And it was really well said and quite clear. So, yep, you're absolutely correct. Do not be fooled. If it is not convertible into it, I don't care what they say. It is not real. You are ready to be abused, and it is just a lie. Don't believe them. And Robert Healy says, how stable will the new system actually be, considering the number of authoritarian governments involved, each with its own and often at odds with each other agenda? Yeah. And I mean, I go back to Zimbabwe, and I know people think, that's over there, that can't happen here, even though it has happened before. And the reality is, that's why they won't make it convertible. Why not just make it convertible? Why not? Because once they make it convertible, you and I have the power. They don't want to give that power up. So yeah, you're absolutely right, Robert. 100%. I agree with you. And Chris Ashby, hey Lynette, if I have a small amount of disposable income each month, would it be better to buy a couple silver coins or save up a few months to buy a 10th ounce gold coin? Thanks. Probably a combination of both. And there's some things that we're kind of working on to enable you to do it and lock in, but we aren't even marginally close to that yet. And I guarantee you, every single one of us, and I mean, before I did Zang Enterprises, I had 8 community members, eight employees, and most of that was on the farm and then in the video world. Now there are, 23 or 24 of us, right? We're all working as fast and pedaling as much as we can. So have a little bit of patience, but I'd say do a combination of the two. I'd still rather see you in silver. And keep in mind that silver as well as gold, right, is monetary at its base regardless of the form. So another way that you can accumulate you're seeing here. So I mean, what I'm telling you is I used to go to, well, I mean, I still do it, to yard sales, estate sales. Back in the day, nobody really thought that sterling silver had any value, and they just were like, oh, it's tarnished, it's bent, it's ugly. Meh. I don't want this stuff. I'll buy it, and I'd buy it for nothing. But another thing that I've done in the past, and I'm going to recommend this, is if you go into, like, say, an antique mall where you have like a whole bunch of different dealers, and you ask for the dealer that works primarily in sterling silver or gold, and you talk to them, you know, if something is bent or broken, they're not going to put it out. So for them, when they liquidate it, they would take it to a smelter and they would get melt for it. Melt is a bit below spot. So if you go to them and you say, hey, I'll buy your junk silver, your sterling silver, it's got to be marked by weight and silver content. So silver is 92.5%, or sterling, and 925 silver is 92.5% pure, right? And I'll pay you spot by weight for it. That's more than they would get if they took it to a smelter, and you get a heck of a deal. So, you know, there's all different ways to accumulate. You know, obviously, at Zang Enterprises, we convert your crappy fiat into physical gold and silver. So certainly that is a great way to do it, because we're also going to help you put your strategy together. But at whatever circumstance you are, however much money you might have, however much of this stuff that you might have to put into physical gold and silver, there's all sorts of ways to do it. I had a client once. He retired, and then he went to work for that gold. What is it? Gold Star, the one of the coin companies, like in the grocery stores where you dump the Coinstar, that you dump all of your the change. Thank you, that you've accumulated. And the reason why he went to work for them afterwards is because they didn't understand any of what we've been talking about here. And so they would let him swap out any of the silver coins for just, you know, a silver quarter. That is not quite, but roughly a quarter of an ounce of silver for just a new quarter. So that was pretty smart of him. I've also had clients that will go to the bank, get a roll of dimes or quarters or $50, right? And at night sit there and go through them. And if there's any silver in there, they pull out the silver ones, add another dime back, re-roll it, or take it back to the bank and change that out, right? And it's harder and harder since we've been, you know, off the silver standard for so long. But my point really is that there are so many different ways for you to accumulate at whatever financial level you're at. But it's also the importance of local community. Because if you were coming into my community, I've been accumulating gold and silver for decades and decades. But you need more than that, right? So bring your skills, be part of the community, there's all different ways to bring value. There's strength in that community, and that's why it's become so important. And B. Lang asked, what is happening to gold and silver prices today? I don't know, I haven't looked at them. What's spot doing?
Well, spot.
We can go on the LynetteZang.com, okay, and we have the ticker on spot gold and silver, as well as the treasuries, and I think the U.S. dollar against standard weighted basket. There you go. And I don't see the ticker moving.
It'll pop up in this. It takes a second sometimes.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, especially if I've been to the page a lot. It'll take a second.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not really there. Here it comes. Okay. Can you see that?
I'm so sorry.
Silver, $30.70.
Doesn't matter. She can't see it.
It's spot. Spot gold 26. Whoops. Keep going. Spot silver is 30.70, and look at those interest rates. Spot gold 26.22. Okay. I mean, it's trading. That's what's happening in those markets. And by the way, and I can't believe I forgot this until this very second, and we should say, yesterday we had a very brief reversion to an inverted yield curve between the 2 and the 10. Didn't last, but these markets are breaking down. That's what all of this is warning you about. And CJ says, at Lynette Zang, do you know why they are preparing all the crypto ETFs, and will XRP Ripple be the system to replace SWIFT? Why are they preparing? I mean, really, because they want us in a digital system where they've got full surveillance and full control. So that's why they're prepping. They want you they want you mostly away from this and this, because once you hold it and you own it, it is virtually invisible to them, and anything could happen to it. They don't even really want you in this, because while the dollar or any fiat money currency does not hold its purchasing power, it does protect the principal. And so in reality, inflation erodes your purchasing power, but it makes it look like your principal is intact. Well, this is a debt instrument that does not pay or charge interest. That is going to change into this next digital iteration, even if they don't take it from us. So they are preparing all of these and allowing the cryptocurrencies, the private cryptocurrencies, to run to get your comfort and your acceptance, because what they're wanting is they want you to just volunteer and go into the CBDCs. So the more visible they can make these crypto markets, the more adoption they get, and that's why they're doing it. Will XRP and Ripple be the system to replace SWIFT? No, I don't think so. They could be a component in there, but it's much bigger than that. So we just have to watch the BRICS and their plumbing and what they're doing and what that looks like, and we will see. But here's the beauty part of sitting in physical gold and silver, right? I got time. I know they're undervalued. I know that they're going to go up in terms of this. And then when everything resets, I can actually see who survived it, but it'll be at a much lower rate because they're resetting the currency, right? So we've seen these. I've shown you these graphs ad nauseum. We'll probably continue to do it ad nauseum, right? But as people fly to these intangible assets to save themselves from inflation, when that overnight reset happens, bam, they go all the way down. Cryptocurrencies aren't different than that, right? Physical gold and physical silver is different than that because it's used all over. One place. Cryptocurrencies used in one place. So they're trying to create that demand because they really don't. I'm sorry, I see the utility for the government and for the central banks, but I'm having a hard time seeing the utility for you and me. It's too narrow a focus and it's intangible. So I have no control.
Real quickly, Wolf asked a question, and I don't have an answer. Maybe you might have an answer. He was asking, well, hello, Wolf, by the way. There's a difference in prices on our ticker symbols and then other websites' ticker symbols.
Oh, okay.
Can you explain that maybe?
I can explain that.
Thank you.
Because there are a number of entities that actually run those prices, and so the markets will be a little different if it's tied to the COMEX or if it's tied to the LBMA. So there is going to be a little bit of difference in it could be. So it depends on somebody that's running a ticker, it depends on which exchange they've tied to. That's what the difference is. And AI channel question. I totally agree gold and silver will be needed. After I build up my treasure hoard like a fantasy dragon, where do I take all of it to cash it in to pay off my mortgage? I love these questions, right? Because it's all part of the strategy, and I like to reveal that to you. But that is the point of working with a dealer, a reputable dealer that has all of those contacts, because it isn't just getting in, it is also what is the exit strategy. And with Zang Enterprises, quite honestly, the relationship that we've created with our wholesalers gives us access to all different markets. So it could be the wholesaler. You're going to come to us. That's where we're going to liquidate it for you. But on the way out, we're going to be looking for where do you capture your biggest gains. So that could be directly back to the wholesaler. That could be to an auction house. That could be creating, putting together a string of collectible coins and selling that into an auction or a market. So the whole system is set up to enable us to go to wherever you are going to generate the most gains. But you know, I can't talk about, I mean, it's very liquid, and there's way over 3,000 outlets that you can go to liquidate it. But frankly, you need to create, again, I go back to that community relationship with who you're buying your gold from. Do they have a strategy? Do they actually understand all of this stuff that I've been talking to you about? Because those very brilliant people like George Gammon and Michael Pinto and, you know, and others, it's not that they don't understand everything, but you only know what you know. And if you're going to another dealer, frankly, they likely don't have the level of education that we have at Zang Enterprises. So do your due diligence and make sure that you're connected with somebody that actually understands everything that we've been talking about, not just today, but for years and years. And that is about currency life cycles and what those patterns are and how you walk through them, because that's where you're going to get the most gains on the liquidation part to pay off your mortgage, to pay your property taxes, to convert into other income producing assets. And again, I have some things that are in the works there. I can't talk to you about it yet, but there's so much more that I can do now that we have Zang Enterprises that I could ever do before. And we're doing it. We're totally doing it.
MM asked a really, I think he's a little confused on the face value. So he's saying all these different values to gold I'm hearing. Why is $50 put on the face value of it?
Oh, I love that. Okay, the reason why you see a $50 face value, and this is my new American Eagle 2024 with a face value of $50. That is because the official U.S. price of gold is $42.22, which was the reset number that they did in 1971 when Nixon closed the gold window and took us off the gold standard. That's why you see a face value of $50. Now, you can't pay $50 for it, because the market is telling us that it's worth a lot more, and it's still way below its fundamental value. But this is all about perception management. So the face value doesn't really matter. Although here is a brand new, not 2023 silver dollar. It's a Canadian maple leaf, and that has a $1. That actually has a $5 face value on it. That's interesting.
So, yeah.
But still way below the spot market, even in 2023. So it's about perception. This is only worth $5. This is only worth $50. Some think, I'm not in this camp, but some think that should they do an overt confiscation, that they would only pay you $50 for that coin. But if you just paid $2,600 or $3,000 or whatever for that coin, and they leave, they do a big sweep of the IRAs and leaving you $50, you going to be okay with that? No, you're not. So it is more likely that even if spot is at $5,000 during that time, that they're going to pay you a big enough premium in this crap because they know that the overnight revaluation is coming for sound money. Okay, and Michael Lamb asks, what is the formula for figuring out what the actual price of gold should be? Okay, debt divided by amount of gold that exists in the whole world. I'm not going to get you to the penny, but I'm going to get you darn close to its true fundamental value. That's it. Not complicated. Nothing really. You know, it's kind of like we all have to train our ears to understand the different lingo in all these different places, right? But the reality is nothing in the strategy is like really complicated in rocket science. It is all just logical based upon repeatable patterns. So even determining the true value of this, I didn't make it up. I just recognized it. And it's not complicated. You look at, go into the IMF and pull up some of their papers that they do there. And they have all these pages and pages and pages of all of these complicated formulas. Well, what do they really tell us? And they have actually written this. This was before I understood print screen, but the next time I see it, I'll pull it so you can see it for yourself. But what they actually say is that if we make this really complicated, nobody questions us. And how many of you have said to yourself, oh, I don't really understand this money stuff, right? And why is it that the people that you're trying to show what's going on to go, la, 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 I don't want to hear it? Because they make things really complicated so you think that you can't understand money. Well, if it's really that complicated, problem is they don't understand it either. But if they make it really complicated, what do you think the chances of another accident happening? Right? They can't see it coming. They see it before you and I do, right? And they take more advantage of crap than you and I can. But in reality, if any strategy is so complicated, and this is one of the challenges that I have with cryptocurrencies, do I really need to be an engineer in order to understand that money? Because if I do, I can be taken advantage of. With physical gold in my possession, this is not real complicated. It's used in every single area of the global economy. Therefore, it has the greatest utility and the broadest base of buyer. And that's what I want for my money. That's why it's so darn stable. And it doesn't have to pay you interest because it's the safest thing you can do. It's the safest thing you can do because it's used in every single sector of the global economy, has the broadest base of utility and the broadest base of buyer. There's your loop. This is not complicated. Supply and demand. Fixed amount of supply and used everywhere. Unlimited supply used in one place. And Partha P asks, why did G7 not want to expand? Were they too confident, or they knew one day their bubble would burst, so did not grab onto others, not wanting to sink others with them? I don't really think they give a crap of who sinks with them. But it's about control, right? So the G7, who they are the 7 largest economies in the world. So these are those quote unquote advanced economies that control all of these systems. Why didn't they want to expand? Well, because maybe they like the control and they felt that other countries that didn't develop the bond market or what have you, I mean, it really is about control and controlling the system that they created. So I can't really answer that because I've not been privy to sitting down and having that meeting and having the ability to ask them. But it does force those that are not in this club, right, to create their own club, hence the BRICS. And Lucy asks, hi Lynette, I read so many opinions against numismatic coins versus bullion or regular post-33 gold. It is very confusing. Can you comment on this? Sure, it's very easy to sell bullion, and there's a lot more of it. The collectibles are only a very small part of the market. And remember, the last time that gold was confiscated in this country was 1933. So they prefer you to be, this is my opinion, they prefer you to be vulnerable. But I was there, and we also go to our personal experience. That was 1933 in the U.S. It happened other times during war times, the Civil War, the War of 1812. In fact, this is a $10 Confederate note, right? So governments, when they go into war is a great excuse for inflation and all of that. But it is much easier. There's a lot more. The difference between this is new stuff. This is what they're going to confiscate, because when they do a confiscation, what do? They use the eminent domain laws, because those say that they can take anything they want. They just have to pay you market value. And Wall Street is currently controlling the market value of what this stuff is tied to. So this straddles markets and enables them to utilize their perception management and make you think, gold really doesn't do anything, even though it's beating everything else. It's just easy to manipulate. And when they do a confiscation, most of the physical gold that people own are in IRAs. And so that makes it easy to do that big, huge sweep and fool you into volunteering all of your wealth. There really is no reason, especially this, right? Okay, this is the 1 ounce gold eagle, 22 carats. This is the 1 ounce pre-33 coin. They run very similar, right? Because this is just a raw coin. This is what I use for my emergency money. But there's really no reason why it's equal to this in terms of gold content weight. Why can't this be held inside of an IRA? Because it's different. It's in a different classification, right? That's what I want. I want to be in the classification. If they were going to confiscate this, they can use the spot market to manipulate the price. It's $3,000 and they're going to pay you $5,000. Okie dokie, look at that. Gold is only worth $3,000. Why you trust Wall Street for price discovery? I don't know, because I certainly don't trust it. But most people do. So easy to confiscate. They have something like this, and this isn't a $15 million coin, but it's in the same category. So that means they would have to look at each individual coin to get a valuation. And these are 2% of the gold market, less than 2% of the gold market. So they can mint more of these, but there is still a finite amount. They ain't minting any more of these. So it's in the classification with that $15 million coin. Please tell me who can afford 1 ounce of gold for 15 million or whatever dollars. My bet would be that it is somebody that either writes the laws or can influence those that write the laws. And when you look at how these move versus these, right? This is a paper market. They can create as much gold as they want to. And therefore, that's how they manipulate the price. But this is only a physical supply and demand market. This is a much more honest market than this is. So personally, I go back to my experience with my Uncle Al, who indeed did exist, and so did Aunt Bertie. And he showed me how he could legally hold at least 3,000 ounces of gold when it was illegal to hold more than 5 ounces. Because he did it with pre-33s. That had an impact on me. I didn't realize it at the time. I was only 10 years old. But I saw it, and as I got older and more experienced, and I remember that day like it was yesterday. I was sitting there and I was writing, and I said, if you were alive in 1971 like I was, and then so many of the lessons that he taught me kind of came flooding in, and I started to understand them so much better. So yeah, no, it's harder to get the numismatics. It's harder to sell the numismatics. It's harder to work with them because it's more of a strategy. This, my friend, is easy peasy. This is more complicated. I would say this runs the danger of confiscation. This is in the less likely category to be confiscated. So when I'm thinking about what kind of gold am I going to buy, go to the IRS, look at their rules. If I can hold it in my IRA, I ain't buying it. Now, I feel different about silver, but in terms of gold, because look at all the gold confiscation that's taking place around the world. Read Nigeria, read Zimbabwe, read a number of other places that is happening right this second. You think they won't take your gold? That's the argument. Gold doesn't back the money anymore. They're not going to do it. That's hopium. That's not history. I prefer to make my choices based on history, not hopium. And if that didn't explain it well enough, or you have more questions, please, this is a great question, and I want to answer it, and I want to make sure that you understand it, all of you. Amy Harrell asks, Lynette, I hope my modest silver bullion comes in today or tomorrow, thus regularly get silver or bullion as a foundation to an uncertain world. Yes, and if you're talking about your silver bullion, I'm good with silver bullion, right? You want to also have a variety of sizes, right? And in a variety of forms. And by the way, I'll tell you this, because at some point we'll come out with this anyway. I happen to be wearing my travel bracelet today. This has 1, 2, 3, and I have others of gold coins in it. And then this is white gold. I wear this when I travel, especially out of the country, because if I ever need money, wherever it is that I am, I can always convert this and I wouldn't care. So, I hope it comes today, because it's definitely an uncertain world and we want to make sure that you're covered. And we have more questions?
Yes, we do. 2 more questions.
Okie dokie. And Xanadu 1975, I remember that movie, is investing in mints like Perth Mint Depository Account. I met him when I went to Australia last time. I don't know that we're going to be seeing him this time, but we could. Anyway, is investing in mints like Perth Mint Depository Account or Royal Mint in UK a good gold investment? That's not gold. That's corporations. So no, that's not a good gold investment. Physical gold in your possession is a good investment. And you've got to do what you're comfortable with, regardless of what anybody says, including me. Go to your comfort level, but I'm personally a lot more comfortable with this, because I do think that we will see an overt confiscation. Price manipulation is a form of confiscation, isn't it? Right? Inflation is a form of confiscation. Taxation is a form of confiscation. The bank saying no to you is a form of confiscation. So they can name it whatever they want, but they've been confiscating your wealth, your time, your work, your entire life. Do you really think they're going to stop at the very end and go, we've taken enough of your wealth, you can keep that? I personally don't think so. But hey, I could be wrong. So on this, you better be right that they don't confiscate. On this, doesn't matter whether I'm right or wrong. the little difference in premium, and in some cases the large premium, because I also like legacy gold, so that's going to be a lot more expensive than this. But, you know, that's the way I feel about it. And Kurt Kelly asks, Lynette, is the Samson option going to happen at this meeting? I don't know, and I didn't even see anything about that, so I'll look at it and I'll see. But, you know, they're still staying pretty vague about, I haven't, you know, and I've just dug into this pretty deeply, but hey, I appreciate these questions because one person can't see or find anything. So that also brings me to the point of, you know, I love these questions because, hey, if I didn't even look at that, I need to, and I will. But if you see anything that you think I need to look at, send it in to questions@LynetteZang.com. Leave it in the comments section of these videos or the other videos that I do, and bring them to me because it helps me see things. I mean, we're all a community. You're part of the community. We have this special chat with all of the strategy specialists, and they're always putting articles and everything in there. And I follow that because I'm just one person. And when I'm doing this or I'm doing something else, I'm not able to pay attention at the level that I like to, but you do. So if you see anything like that, send it into questions@LynetteZang.com and give me an opportunity to see it too, because my goal is to translate this financial noise into understandable language so that you can make choices that put your best interest first. That's my whole goal. That's my whole goal. So
last question real quickly. I'm so sorry. This is something that I never thought about. So Maria Andrade asked, so fiat money will never totally disappear in essence?
In essence, not if there'll always be a part of fiat money, but how fiat it is, if they have their druthers, no, it'll never disappear because that's how they transfer your wealth and get you to volunteer.
Right.
So I'm saying let's get rid of the fiat money and make sure that there's a component of gold that is convertible. So, yeah, no, if those that are in power remain in power unchecked, no, it'll never disappear. And the life and the freedoms and the choices that your children and your children's children and their children on and on have will be a whole lot more narrow than what you and I enjoy today. And it bothers me greatly that my granddaughter, that is 9 years old, has less choices moving forward than I had. Right? That shouldn't be like that. There shouldn't be somebody dictating what we have the right to do, as long as we stay within reasonable community guidelines. So, is that it for today? Wow, good questions, you guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't even begin to tell you how much I appreciate your support and your being here. And you see, I know that together, we can make a positive difference for a lot of people. And until next we meet, please be safe out there. Bye-bye.